Hello and greetings everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we
Loud
can
and
hear you.
clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so
I
much.
can hear you.
So I'm excited to be joined today for this Afro-Longevity educational program by someone I sincerely appreciate and admire. In today's class, I will be having an award-winning scientist and a very humble person. She's so compassionate. And I always drag her to some of our programs. And I can say that sometimes against her wish, she was trying to send me a message. I know she'll be like, okay, let me just do this for this boy. Right. So Professor Gladys Borden is someone that I've been learning from for a long time. And she is interested in what is happening in Africa. She's always willing to share her wealth of knowledge with people who are open to learning. And she is very prudent and also have what we call intellectual humility. She's open to see what you think about what is happening to with regards to the human condition. She's also the chair of Integrated Science Committee in her university, and she's been chair to so many things that has to be do with science. And I can't finish her profile. She achieved so much, and that is why I love associating myself with people who must have achieved so much, so that by God's grace I can be like them. So thank you so much. Dr. Borden, would you like to tell us a little bit about your background? We have completely new persons here in this conversation, and then you take us through the conversation. If there are basic things that you can talk to that connects to the God's health, and then you run us through. Thank you so much for making our time to be here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. As was stated, I'm Dr. Gladys Delancey Bolding. I actually teach at, a university where I teach an array of science courses, and I teach anatomy and physiology to students who are pursuing careers in healthcare. It could be radiology, perfusionist, nursing, medicine, whatever that is. I also teach cell biology and genetics to students. It's usually a prerequisite for A&P, but then there's some students that take it because they have to fulfill their area to have two sciences. I teach that. I also teach environmental science. I teach botany. So I teach an array of courses, pretty much everything on the college level. In the undergrad, I pretty much teach those except for microbiology, even though I teach a component of that as well. I do want to say that I am an overachiever. I can't learn enough. I feel like I'm an abyss. I'm always constantly trying to learn more because the human body is just so complex. It's just unbelievable. You can never get enough knowledge, and then you start making those connections. So I'm really excited about this particular presentation because I think that it's going to inform a lot of people how important it is, to maintain your gut, your microbiome. That's the bacteria that inhabits, your gut. So, thank you again for that introduction. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the actual presentation. Okay, so the gut, so that's basically, the foundation, a lot of people may not know this, but for immunity, okay, for immunity, that's how I call the immune system our military because it's there to protect us. Okay, so the gut has a lot to do with that because you're going to see that a lot of our immune cells are actually produced there. Also, this is something that people are not really familiar with, which is really interesting, is how it impacts your mood, and we're going to find out why because there's a neurotransmitter that is actually produced in the gut. And when you hear neurotransmitter, usually they're produced, in the brain by your nerve cells. So that's really interesting, but there's a reason why there's a connection there. And then also, the gut has a lot to do with maintaining your blood sugar because it allows more sensitivity of the production of our release of insulin, and then also, your overall health. And I just want to mention that this is it's not new, it's not a new area, but it's a lot of focus is on it now. Let's just say that. So you've always probably had people who were researching it, scientists were researching it, but now they're really honing in on it because they're seeing that it's connected to so many different things. Yeah. So I do want to mention that. And then I do want to just point out that what you're seeing here, the gut wall. So these are the structures that actually make up the gut wall here. And you can see these structures are called microvilli. That's what these finger-like projections are. And they actually increase the surface area for nutrient absorption. Okay. So, and then you can see here, this is your colon. So here's your colon. Here's your small intestine here. Okay, so here's the colon right here, and you can see that these are representative of gut bacteria. So that would be your microbiome. Here, back here is your pancreas. That's where, that's the organ that actually, or the gland that produces insulin as well as glucagon. So those are actually hormones that are produced by the pancreas. And you can see that is hidden behind the stomach, because this is the stomach here. And that's the thing about the pancreas, the fact that it's hidden behind the stomach. That's why when somebody has pancreatic cancer, it's diagnosed so late. And that's because of the fact that a lot of the symptoms that are generated by pancreatic cancer, they mimic other types of symptoms, and that's because of where it's located. So I just want to mention that. And of course, here's our liver, here's our esophagus, so you can see the stomach is going to the intestine. This here's the small intestine, the large intestine, then we have our rectum and our anus. So we're talking about the gut. So to be starting from the esophagus, from your mouth into the esophagus, down through your stomach and your small intestine and large intestine, that's really considered the gut, because that's where those are structures that are part of the digestive system. They have some role. When I mention the mouth, because when we start chewing food, we have an enzyme called amylase, and amylase actually starts the breakdown of carbohydrates. And I said it starts the breakdown; it doesn't complete there. It completes in the actual small intestine. That's where the completion of the breakdown of the actual carbohydrates, but it starts in the mouth. So that's why it's considered as a part of that particular region of the digestive system. Here you can see, now here's the thing, like, look at that. The gut is home to trillions of microbes. So we actually have like this symbiotic relationship. And when I say that, I mean that we provide them with a place to stay, okay? And then they actually break down like phytophores. They produce different types of vitamins that are important in generating red blood cells as well as blood clotting. So they play a very vital role in us being healthy. If we have a good, healthy microbiome. So you can see it contains trillions, not millions, trillions, okay, of different type of bacteria. We also have viruses there, and we also have fungi, and then also there's some structures called protists, and I'm going to introduce you to those as we progress through the PowerPoint. So you can see, if you have this healthy environment or this healthy microbiome, that supports, our digestion. Nobody really wants to feel bloated or constipated, okay? It also helps with nutrient absorption, the food we eat, okay? Because remember, we're eating because it's going to provide us with the energy that we need to walk, talk, or do any of the activities that we would like to do. And also, it plays a role in disease prevention. Okay, so that has to do like with diabetes, maintaining our blood sugar. So look at this, about 70% of the body's immune cells, okay, our military, is located in the GI tract. That's a lot, okay? So, and then the beneficial bacteria, they help defend against harmful pathogens and they regulate inflammation. And we're going to look at inflammation a little bit, because now that's another area with, doctors are honing in on, like the researchers and the scientists, because they're finding that it could be detrimental to you. It has a beneficial component, but if it's something that goes on for a long time, it could be detrimental to your health. Okay, so again, here you see our intestine. These are the microbes or the microorganisms that inhabit it. So, and then we have, so not all bacteria is considered detrimental or bad to you. We have, like I said, we have those that are beneficial that help us with, making digestion easier. Also with maintaining, our gut wall as well. Okay. So you can see here, so the human gut microbiome, contains trillions of microorganisms. So we have bacteria. Now, I want to mention archaea. So archaea is also a type of bacteria. It's just that those type of bacteria, which are called archaea, they survive in extreme environments. So let's say, for example, like in a place like Antarctica, where it's extremely cold. Because if you think about it, the reason why we refrigerate our food is to prevent it from spoiling due to some type of microorganism, usually bacteria, right? So in the case of archaea, those are bacteria that can actually survive in that type of environment, in extremely frigid environments, or they can survive in hot springs. Because what they tell you, when you cook your food, you're actually killing bacteria, but you have other bacteria that are considered like outliers. They can survive in these extreme environments, and they fall under the category of archaea. And then we have fungi, viruses, and then protozoa is the one that I was telling you. So these are all considered germs. That's what they are. And remember, we said, but not all of them are bad, okay? So while each person's microbiome is unique, many beneficial and common microorganisms are found in healthy individuals. So basically, we do have microorganisms that are unique to us, and that has a lot to do with our environment. It depends on what we're exposed to. But then we all have some that are very common to basically everybody, okay? And I just want to mention that when it comes to those unique microorganisms, they're looking at trying to identify individuals or suspects when it comes to forensic science based on the type of microorganisms that an individual has that's unique. Okay, so again, we do have many that are the same. However, depending on our environment, we're exposed to different type of microorganisms. So we're going to have some unique ones. You know, you live in a different country, if you live in a different country, you're going to have a different bacteria from me, but still we'll probably have some of the same as well. Okay, so then we have these probiotics and these prebiotics. So a lot of people, there's a big thing where at one time, I'm not sure if it's as, if I'm seeing it as much as I used to, but, people were taking probiotics. So those are like supplements. Now, the thing about that is that, so they were trying to introduce good bacteria into their gut. That's what that was. So they were so for example, fermented food. So bacteria can actually produce a certain type of compound that could be beneficial, right? So you can find probiotics like in yogurt. Now that was pretty much always there, because to be honest with you, if you have a microscope and you buy a container of yogurt, just regular yogurt, if you put it under a microscope, you will be able to see the bacteria. You can actually see it. It's something that we actually do at the college. You just smear it on the slide, look at it under a microscope, and you can actually see the bacteria. Then these are just some of the probiotics that are mentioned, like the kimchi, and you can see that's what that is here. It contains like cabbage and, any type of fermented type of product that would encourage a healthy microbiome. And then kefir, or kefir, that's like a milk type product, and then also sauerkraut. So those are supposed to be the types of foods that would contain probiotics to give you a healthy microbiome. And then we also have prebiotics, okay? So what they do is, these are foods that feed beneficial gut bacteria. So and some of the foods that they consider prebiotics would be like onions, garlic, bananas, oats, beans, and that's not an exhaustive list. There's other food products as well. Now this is something that they're trying to do. So if you have an individual who has a compromised microbiome, so when I say compromised, that means that it's not exactly healthy. They're looking at doing something called like a fecal transplant. You can see your fecal microbiota transplantation. So it's just a fecal transplant. So what they do is they actually find an individual who has a very healthy gut bacteria. And then what they do is they do like a transplant into another individual who does not have a healthy one. So the whole idea is that they're hoping to actually, when they transplant this, the healthy bacteria into the person who was compromised, they're hoping that those gut bacteria will actually populate and create a more healthy microbiome. That's the whole idea behind it. So I've seen where they have actually, or I've read that they've developed like a capsule. It's like, it's made up of, feces, but it's like a capsule. You can see here, like a capsule is sort of like that. Or they can actually do a fecal transplant when they actually do like a colonoscopy. So when you go for a colonoscopy, or even not just that at that point, but if it's something that's necessary. So that's something that they're looking at in research, and they've been trying to implement. So I'm not sure exactly how beneficial it is, but these are some of the type of treatments that they're actually trying. Okay, so the gut influences mental health. Now that, a lot of people just don't make that connection, but if you look at the way the body is actually built, it's like intertwined. you know, so there's connections everywhere. So it's not really surprising. So you have something called the gut-brain axis, and that's how the brain communicates with the gut and vice versa. And it's actually done through a cranial nerve called the vagus nerve. So it's a very long nerve that actually travels from the brain down to the gut. And there's some type of signals that are sent, whether it's through chemicals or some type of electrical activity. That's exactly how that communication is taking place. Now, this is what should really be surprising to you. Approximately 90% of the body's serotonin, okay, and serotonin has to do with mood, okay, that's a neurotransmitter, that is actually produced in the gut. Now, that is just amazing. And that's how, through research, they found out that there is a gut-brain axis and that there's some communication going on there. Because like I told you, most neurotransmitters are actually produced in the brain. So we even have dopamine. That's another neurotransmitter. Not as much is produced there, but there's still about 50% that's actually produced in the gut. So you can see that there's a connection there because, you know, your mood has a lot to do with really your hippocampus, which is located in the brain. So that means that there's some information that's being transported or shared where it can have an impact on your mood, and that's serotonin. So 90% of serotonin is actually generated in your gut. So poor gut health has been linked to anxiety, okay, depression, and stress. And that makes sense because serotonin has to do with mood, okay? So it's really interesting. Okay, so the gut regulates blood sugar. Who would have ever thought? So healthy gut bacteria, it can improve, and I had mentioned that earlier, it can improve the insulin sensitivity. And so they help regulate glucose metabolism and may reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. Okay, so you know, type 2 diabetes is usually late onset. So you develop that usually, you know, after 40 years old or something like that. You know, what happens is your pancreas is not producing enough insulin. So you usually have to take, you know, insulin, you know, through an injection, you know, or something like that. So this here is just showing you here, look at this, how you can see here, a healthy gut helps keep blood sugar balanced. So look, it improves insulin sensitivity. So the beneficial gut bacteria produce compounds, which we'll see in a minute, that help cells respond better to insulin. Okay. And then you can see here at number 2, it reduces inflammation. We're going to talk a little bit about inflammation. Okay. So you can see this here is representing your gut. So these are the cells that represent your gut. Remember, I showed you these are finger-like projections, and they actually increase the surface area for absorption. But it just shows you how a balanced gut microbiome, it strengthens the gut bacteria, because what it is that it reduces the inflammation, you can see here, and which helps prevent insulin resistance. So that's something, because remember, the reason why insulin is being released is because after you eat, usually your glucose level will spike. Right. And so the insulin brings it back into balance, because remember, you want to maintain your glucose levels, because otherwise it could lead to blindness. It could lead to amputations. You know, it's not, you know, it's always something that is negative if you're not maintaining your glucose levels. Okay. So that's important. So it shows you how the gut plays a role in that. Look, modulates hormones that control blood sugar. And then also you can see up here, it slows glucose absorption, which is good. See how when it slows the glucose absorption, you see a healthy gut slows the digestion and absorption of carbohydrate, and it prevents blood sugar spikes. So when I talk about the sugar spikes, I'm talking about it going too high away from its normal level. Okay, and then also, and these were the some of the fatty these short fatty acids here that are actually produced by bacteria. That's what they are: butyrate, propionate, and acetate. So these are actually compounds that are produced by bacteria. Look, and they can support liver function, helping the body maintain stable blood glucose levels. Okay, so those are important. So if you think about it, if the bacteria are actually producing those, if you have bacteria you don't have a healthy microbiome, so apparently your bacteria, you don't have the most beneficial ones, and they're not going to produce those compounds to maintain a healthy microbiome. Okay. I do want to see, let me see something. I just want to mention here. See, you can see here, when the gut is imbalanced, you have dysbiosis, inflammation, and a weak gut barrier can lead to insulin resistance, right? Blood sugar spikes, and a higher risk of metabolic diseases. So metabolic diseases, you're talking about your metabolism. So those are all the chemical reactions that take place in the body to help you produce the energy you need to perform what you would like to do, walk, talk, or whatever, exercise, whatever that is. Okay, so this is just showing you again glucose metabolism. Okay, you can see here, these are just carbohydrates here. Okay, and then you can see here glucose enters the bloodstream and then insulin is released. So this is your pancreas. Okay, because remember, once that's the function of the actual pancreas is to release the insulin to bring your glucose down into balance, right? And then you see here cells use glucose for energy. Okay, and then here you can see excess glucose is stored. So that's one thing. So if you have excess glucose, it's going to be stored as glycogen, and that's stored in the liver, and that's what it's showing here. And it can be stored in the muscles as well. Let me just mention that to you. So in the liver, it's going to be stored as glycogen. So in the case of, let's say if you start fasting or something and you decide you're not going to eat, so I'm just going to fast, what it is that your liver will break down the glycogen and provide you with the glucose you need to maintain those levels, the normal levels. Okay, so the gut, it improves nutrient absorption, which I've mentioned. It's also the gut absorbs vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Okay, you can't have proteins if you don't have amino acids and healthy fats. So beneficial microbes also produce vitamins such as vitamin K and several B vitamins. So there's a host of about 8 different B vitamins, but there are some that are specific for actually the formation of red blood cells, just like vitamin K is important in blood clotting. Okay, so it just shows you how it improves nutrient absorption and can also generate the red blood cells and also plays a role with blood clotting. Okay, so the gut reduces chronic inflammation. This is something I wanted to talk about. So this is showing you here. You can see here, this is a healthy gut, and these are the cells, like I told you here. Now look at the unhealthy gut. You see how it's been compromised. So when it's compromised, that means that anything can get in there and it can wreak havoc. So you can have toxins going in there, and then they wreak havoc and they lead to different types of diseases or conditions that are unhealthy. Okay, so you can see here, so with inflammation, let me explain to you what inflammation is. So let's say, for example, you have a cut or some type of wound or something like that. Your immune system responds by sending out all of these different type of chemicals, okay? Because they want to fix the issue. They want to repair it, okay? So acute inflammation is okay because it's short. It's for a short period of time. But if it continues, it could lead to different types of diseases and stuff like that. So long-term inflammation, which is chronic inflammation, is not a good thing. Acute inflammation, yes, that's what the immune system is there for. It's there to protect you. So we need acute inflammation, but chronic inflammation that goes on for long periods of time is detrimental to us, okay? So I do want to mention some of these here. Okay, so you can see here, this is really nice. This is what you want your gut to look like. The cells are all attached. Everything is intact, okay? And not just anything can go through. But here you can see the harmful bacteria and toxins, okay? So the toxins can actually get into your blood and they can wreak havoc, and then you can become septic, and that's when bacteria start traveling through your bloodstream and people can die from it, okay? So I just want to mention that. So you can see here, an unhealthy gut can contribute to chronic inflammation. Like I said, that's long-term inflammation, which is not good for you, okay? And it's associated with many serious conditions. Look at that, obesity, heart disease, okay? Autoimmune disorders, okay? Metabolic disease. So you can see there, that's why it's also important to have a healthy gut, okay? And because if you don't have a healthy gut, it can lead to chronic inflammation. And that's another area where researchers are looking at how inflammation is detrimental to our health overall. Okay, so this is one of the compounds that I was telling you about that the bacteria actually create, and you can see here, it's actually a short chain fatty acid. That's what that is. It's just showing you here. So this is actually created, like I told you, by the bacteria, and it helps with digestion. It's a positive thing. So that's just one, and then the acetate is another, and it's also showing you where you can get these short fatty acid short chain fatty acid compounds, right? You can see here, these are some of the foods. So you see here, like, carrots, you see broccoli, the healthy fruits, kiwi, bananas, and things like that, legumes, So that's an example of where you can actually, get some of these compounds to help with gut microbiome. Okay, and then propionate is another one. So we looked at the acetate, the propionate, and then you had the butyrate. So these are actually made by the bacteria, but you can also get them from different foods as well. Okay, so why the gut health matters? Okay, so of course, digestion and nutrient absorption is important because remember we said, first of all, you don't want to be constipated, you don't want to have gas and all that stuff. So, and then also nutrient absorption is extremely important because that's where we get our energy. Okay, so a healthy gut helps break down food and absorb nutrients such as vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, and carbs. Okay, and then poor gut function can lead to digestive symptoms like the bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, okay, and then also stomach discomfort. So here, see what I'm looking at here, I can't see it. Wait, sorry about that. So this is showing you the gut-brain axis, okay? Again, this is a nice image of how I was showing you. Let me see. Oh, yeah. So see how they mentioned here the vagus nerve? So here you can see that there's some communication between the gut and the brain. Okay, so and it's also showing you, like I said, neurotransmitters are usually found, they're usually generated in the brain. Okay, but in this case, we found that serotonin, 90% of it is actually generated in the gut. Okay, so that's just giving you an idea of that there is some communication between the gut and the brain. So they call it the gut-brain axis. Okay, so why gut health matters? So the immune system support, and remember I told you that 70% of the body's immune cells, they are actually located in and around the gut. So that's huge. So there's a connection there. And then also the gut microbiome, it helps train the immune system to recognize harmful pathogens while tolerating beneficial microbes. So the gut microbiome, it helps train your immune system, right, to recognize harmful pathogens, right? Because we have both. We have some that are beneficial, some that are detrimental. Okay, so while tolerating the beneficial microbes, and we definitely want to keep those beneficial microbes because what they help us with digestion, help us with maintaining our glucose level. So it's extremely important. Mental health and mood. So the gut and brain communicate through what's often called the gut-brain axis, which we saw in the image, right? And then the gut bacteria can influence the production of neurotransmitters, and that plays a huge role. And so we mentioned serotonin. Remember, I said it has to do with mood. Approximately 90% is generated in the gut, so it affects mood, sleep, emotional well-being. And remember, we said if you have a poor microbiome, it leads to anxiety and depression. Okay, so research has found links between gut health and conditions such as anxiety and depression. Okay, so why the gut matters? Okay, so protection against disease. So a diverse, balanced microbiome can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over. That's extremely important because we have both, and some of them we actually take in when we eat something. Reduce inflammation. Remember, I said, you only want acute inflammation if you're dealing with a breach in your skin or there's some, bruising or scarring or something that needs repair, because that's really what acute inflammation what it responds to. But if it goes on and on, sometimes who knows what the reason is, because I don't think they have discovered why you have chronic inflammation. They just know that it happens. You could have something that's supposed to turn off and then it just stays on. So that's what they're saying, that if you have a healthy, what they have found in research, if you have a healthy microbiome, that's going to reduce the chances of chronic inflammation for it continuously going on. Because what's happening with your immune system, that, like I said, it's your military. So it's going to throw everything you have at it. It's throwing bombs, grenades, all kinds of cells at it because its goal is to repair it. So sometimes it goes, awry, then it continues on forever. And that's just not a good thing. And then also it can support metabolic health. Okay, so this here is showing you some of the gut microbiome. So this here is representative of, this is actually a bacteria here. It's called the rod bacteria because the bacteria comes in different shapes. There's always exceptions, but usually it's a rod, it's spirillum, and it's coccus. Okay, so this one is representative of a rod-shaped bacteria. And then these structures you see on that are projecting off the top of it, those are called pili. And the pili is what allows it to adhere to a surface or to whatever it's adhering to. Now, these are called flagella, okay? And this is what allows the actual bacteria to move. Now, these little circles, they're attached together, those are coccus, and they're round, okay? So that's what it's showing you there. I don't really see a spirillum, but the spirillum is sort of like spiral shape, okay? That's what that is. You think about a noodle and it's folded in and out, that's what a spirillum will look like. But those are usually the most common shapes of bacteria, but there's always exceptions, you know. And the reason why you want to know the shape, let's say if you came in and you had some type of bacterial infection and they found that it was rod shaped, well, they know it's not anything related to the coccus, which is the round shape, or the spirillum, which is the spiral shape. So that's why it's important to know the shape of the bacteria. So these are just some viruses. So here's the thing with these. So this is coronavirus, right? So this is not, let me be honest with you, there's not really much to a virus, okay? It has like a shell. It may have some structures that are projecting out of it. And then inside of it, it either has DNA or RNA. And that's pretty much it. But we know that they can be lethal. We experience, you know, the situation with coronavirus, okay? Here's the influenza, the flu virus here. That's what that looks like. Here's the HIV virus, okay? Hepatitis B. Now down here, this is the, oops, let me go back. That's the Ebola virus down there. Sort of looks like a worm, okay? Now this here is a bacteriophage. Now I mentioned the bacteria, but let me just mention to you, so it's actually a virus because everything that's on these images here are actually bacteria. Now, I mean, viruses, I'm sorry. So this here, they call it a bacteriophage because researchers wanted to use it to actually kill bacteria. So it's a virus that they felt could be used as a treatment. But what they found is that it wasn't consistent. It didn't always kill just the actual bacteria. So let me just say, they are still working on trying to improve the mechanism as to how it can treat bacterial infections. But right now they haven't achieved that, but that's what that is. It's a virus, but they call it a bacteriophage because the goal is to try to use it in humans to actually kill bacteria. So yeah, so that's what you're seeing here. All of these are bacteria. Viruses. So this is fungi. Okay, so these are fungi. So these are germs. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at germs. So remember, this one here is penicillin. Now that one is famous because it's an antibiotic. They use it to treat certain conditions. So, but these are examples of different type of fungi. And now here are protists. And that's why I was saying this one is considered a germ. These are germs as well. Like, for example, we have here, this is the amoeba. Now, the amoeba is known for, they call it a brain-eating amoeba because it can kill people. So let's say like if you're in a pond, you're in a river, you know, and you may find some in oceans, but usually you find them in water that's kind of stagnant. What it is that if it travels up your nose, it will kill you. But if it goes through your mouth, it will not. But how do you know? You can't see it. It's a microorganism. So that's why they encourage people who are jumping into ponds and rivers and stuff like that to wear nose plugs, because there are many people that have encountered it. Only one person has survived it. Now, I don't know why. I'm sure that they're doing research to find out why it didn't happen for that person, but it usually kills the person. And then these are just some of the other types of protists, but it's considered a germ. Just like fungi is a germ, bacteria is a germ, viruses are germs, protists are germs as well. So good versus harmful microbes. Okay, so of course we said we have the good and we have the bad. Okay, so let's look at this. So who they are: beneficial microbes live in our bodies and in the environment, and they help us stay healthy. And let me just mention, you also have bacteria on your skin. You can't get away from germs. I'll be honest with you, they're in the air. We do experiments in the college where some people will take a petri dish that contains a certain type of media, and they'll just open it up, hold it out there for let's say 10 seconds, cover it up. You come back, you put it in the incubator, you come back within 24 hours, you see that there's some type of bacteria growing on that media. So they're everywhere, okay? And what I find is that a lot of times, you know, people who don't wash their hands, they're passing on those germs. You know, hand washing helps tremendously in preventing germs, okay? So you can see here, these are just some of the examples of the good ones. So lactobacillus. Some of these we don't really hear a lot about. We hear about penicillin, okay? Saccharomyces, but this one here, we don't really hear a lot about here, but these are some of the ones that are considered to be healthy. But again, we said they support digestion, of course, nutrient absorption, produce the vitamins you see here, like I mentioned, B and K, strengthen the immune system. Okay, and then they support mental health and mood, and because we talked about the serotonin, and they protect against harmful pathogens. So that's why it's extremely important. Okay, and then it shows you some of the foods where you can actually improve your microbiome or keep it healthy. And then let's look at the harmful pathogenic ones. So if it's pathogenic, more than likely it can cause some type of disease. Okay, and we have heard about salmonella, and we know salmonella can definitely cause it, and we've heard about E. coli. Okay, and then you have here Candida albicans, and then also Staphylococcus. But these are the ones that we're very familiar with. We hear about them, hope not often, but we hear about them enough to remember that they exist. Okay, so how they harm. So look at this. They cause food poisoning, and also you can see they cause infections. They trigger inflammation. And what did we say? We don't want chronic inflammation. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you only want acute inflammation when you have like I said, some type of scarring or some type of repair that's needed. You don't want it triggered just for no reason. It weakens the immune system, and that's serious because we depend on our immune system to protect us. So we don't want to weaken our immune system. We want to strengthen it. It could lead to chronic illness if uncontrolled, and also spread quickly in poor hygiene condition. That's why I said, they said, they found like during when we had coronavirus, they found that a lot of it was spread through people, with hands and stuff. It was just amazing, and so that's why they encourage you should wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, interlacing your fingers, cleaning in between the fingers and everything. So, oh yeah, so that's one of the number one causes of the spread of germs, and I'll be honest with you, I don't particularly care for shaking hands. I really don't, I'd rather do a fist bump or something like that, or not touch at all, because you don't know people's hygiene practices. Okay, so here's the inflammation that I was telling you about. So your body's natural defense. And that's why I said it is something that is supposed to occur. So it's your natural, see, it protects you from injury, infection, and harmful invaders. So it is a normal and essential response that helps your body heal. That's what the purpose of it is for. Okay, so you can see here, acute, that's the one that you want short term, chronic, long term. We don't want that. That is detrimental to us because it goes on. And a lot of those chemicals that are being released, they are causing other issues. That's why you want it to do what it's supposed to do and then end. Okay. So here's some signs here. You can see of inflammation. You'll have some redness, of course, swelling, pain, heat, loss of function. And then, again, you can see some of the causes of inflammation, infection, some type of injury, but, people get injured. And look, this is interesting, an unhealthy diet, okay, can cause inflammation. And then stress, of course, and then also some toxins. And then how do you reduce it? Well, of course, you improve your nutrition. You definitely improve your nutrition, exercise, maintaining your weight, okay? So those are some ways, drinking water. Those are ways that you can actually decrease inflammation. Okay, and of course, I just mentioned to you about weight management, and that's something, that's why, if you go to your doctor and they are, aware, and I'm sure they are, of how important the gut microbiome is, they may say to you, I need you to reduce your gut. I need you to, decrease that, because they know that, it's probably some inflammation there. There's a lot going on. So it's an indication that you don't have a healthy gut. So a healthy gut, a healthy heart. Yeah, so here's another one. Look at how the gut and the heart are more connected than you think. So we were looking at before the actual gut, and we looked at the brain. So it also has an impact on the heart as well. And that's because let's say if you have like a leaky gut, remember I said that that's unhealthy, that could lead to high cholesterol. Okay. And we know that high cholesterol, it causes it could lead to you having a stroke or some type of heart attack or something like that. So yes, the gut has an impact on the heart. So here's how it supports the heart. Look at this. So look at this. It reduces inflammation. That's what we want. Regulates blood pressure. Okay, so that's extremely important because of the fact that you don't want to have a stroke or a heart attack or anything. So look at this. The gut bacteria help produce compounds that support healthy blood vessel function and blood pressure. So that, again, those are those compounds like the butyrate, the acetate, and the propionate. That's why those are very important, okay? Improves cholesterol. Beneficial bacteria help break down cholesterol and support healthy lipid metabolism. Because remember, we said that having a healthy gut also supports metabolism overall. Okay. And then look, supports blood sugar control and then strengthens the gut bacteria, because remember, we don't want leaky gut because anything can go in there. And if you have a toxin that goes in there, it could travel through the blood vessels. Okay. So that can lead to heart issues as well. Okay. So an unhealthy gut, greater, look at this, greater heart risk, chronic inflammation, which we don't want, leaky gut. So this higher TMAO level, so this is some type of compound that when they do a blood test, it gives them an indication of your heart health. Okay, so you can see here certain gut bacteria produce this. That's how they know. So it's linked to a higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and heart disease. Okay, and then poor risk factor control. Okay, so that's how it can affect your heart. Who would have ever thought that your gut had an impact on all these different areas in the body? Okay, so healthy aging. Okay, so when we look at longevity, so as we age, our gut tends to decrease. Okay, a gut bacteria tends to decrease, and it does because we're aging. But healthy lifestyle habits, they can help maintain a balanced microbiome and support overall health. So that means that we have to do a little bit more work, eat healthier, exercise, so you can still improve that, eat foods that are going to support your immune system, that's going to strengthen it, right? So so we looked at some of the things that could help us support a healthy lifestyle. Okay, so look how a healthy gut supports longevity. So a healthy gut is increasingly recognized as one of the foundations of healthy aging and longevity. Okay, so they're saying, so when they say it's the foundation, what they're saying is that basically that's where it starts. If you want to have longevity, have health span, you have to look at your gut. Okay, and also do what you need to do to keep it healthy. So also reduces chronic inflammation, which we discussed, supports brain health, protects heart health, okay, improves metabolic health, strengthens the immune system, supports nutrient absorption, and then it maintains the digestive health. So those are all the things that we saw in the previous PowerPoints. So what are some of the best foods for a healthy gut? So I had mentioned to you before, eating, fresh foods, ultra processed foods, everyone knows that they are just not good for you. So you have to, stay away from those type of foods. A lot of times people are in a rush and, they have to grab something, but there are other options, fruits and vegetables that you can grab and replace having to do that type of eating. Habits that harm the gut. I want to ask you, so I'd like to hear from you. What type of habits harm the gut? Anybody? What type of habits harm the gut?
Okay, Emmanuel, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the habits that harm the gut is eating processed food, like you stated. Some of those processed food, like noodles, and let's say vegetable oil that have been used repeatedly, it harm the gut.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I'm next. Go ahead.
Sedentary lifestyle. And smoking,
yes,
sedentary
smoking,
lifestyle.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Smoking. Absolutely. Yes. Next.
Eating highly polished cereals.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just curious, did anybody have any idea that the gut had this type of impact on your health overall? Anybody? I'm just curious. Go ahead.
Yeah, I knew that, but you've opened my eye to more of them, because for our facility, when they come and we check and there's dysbiosis, and we try to repopulate the gut by using high fiber food and prebiotics, they recover quickly and many diseases are reversed, including dementia and depression.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Look at
Also,
that. Yes.
also,
Okay,
as
somebody
an
else.
as an iridologist too, when we read the eyes, we see where the problem a person has is coming from, and sometimes we can trace it from the guts.
Oh wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, see, it's just so much to learn. That is great. I'm happy to hear these testimonies because you know, it just confirms the research. So that's just wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, so and then do you remember which neurotransmitter is predominantly made in the gut? Anybody?
Serotonin.
That's right, serotonin. Serotonin. Because, you know, we do have other ones. Like, you know, I remember I said about 50% is dopamine is made there. But we have others like acetylcholine. They're not made there. And that's why I said that's unusual. Because most neurotransmitters are usually made by brain cells. So it's really interesting. Thank you for that. Okay, so the latest research. So this is going to be the latest research when it comes to the gut microbiome. So they're looking at the fact that we, remember I mentioned earlier on that even though many of us have we all have some of the same healthy gut bacteria, but some of us have unique bacteria. Well, they're looking at personalized nutrition, which I think is good to find out what works for you. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that someone has a genetics kit, and it gives you an indication of the type of foods that will work best for you, which I think is great. So personalizing, because everybody is different. There's not a one size fit all. We all are different, you know? So even though we have a lot of similarities. And also they're looking at the discovery of new beneficial bacteria, okay? Because if there's trillions of bacteria that inhabit our gut, they don't know all of them. So they're constantly researching and trying to identify, you know, which ones they are. So that's great. And then also they want to see, they want to learn more about how it's related to heart health. Okay, because if it can lead to strokes and, you know, you have cholesterol building up in the vessels and it can lead to a heart attack, they want to learn more about that. Okay, and then they're still studying the gut-brain axis, because if serotonin is being generated there, then you have some dopamine being generated there. What else? I mean, there's a lot more to discover. So they want to learn more. What other types of communications are there that are coming from the gut? Okay. And then also they're looking at cancer treatments, because they want to know when they give treatments like chemotherapy to patients, how does that affect the healthy or the beneficial bacteria? They want to know about that. Okay. Because remember, if you already are compromised, you have cancer and you're getting chemotherapy, which is debilitating, you know it's going to have an effect on your immune system. Everybody knows that it reduces your immune system. So they want to learn more about what else is being affected. And so that can help them with developing better treatments, okay, where hopefully it would not affect, you know, your gut microbiome. So that's important. And then they're looking at microbiome therapies, and I had mentioned some of those to you about the fecal transplant, okay, that, you know, so they also, I'm trying to discover more or maybe even perfect that. And then of course they say here, diet remains central. Nutrition, I really truly believe personally that it has a lot to do with health overall, what you eat. Okay, I truly believe that, you know, especially, you know, and not just as a diabetic, but because if you look at these ultra processed food, they have a lot of chemicals in them, and who knows how long they stay in the body. We already know that they can cause cancer, and who knows what else. So I really emphasize nutrition. And then we also have environmental exposures. You know, I know here in the West, we have these forever chemicals, and they've been around since probably the early 70s, and they still are in the air, and they could be a contributing factor to all the people that are getting cancer, because cancer is like a normal thing now. It's like that's all you hear, and you have all ages. It's not a particular age that's getting it. So it's like so many people are acquiring cancer, and it's from numerous, and a lot of, let me just say, a lot of people who are getting cancer here in the West, it's not, a lot of the cases not even genetic. They are first-time people in their family that are acquiring this particular disease. So it has a lot to do with environment, and I'm sure that nutrition plays a role. And there's so many things, you know, so it's not just one thing, you know. So yeah, so these are some of the things that scientists are researching. Oh, so that concludes my presentation. Yeah, okay, let me come out of there. All right, see if I can open this up.
Okay. Let me see. You want to stop sharing first?
I'm trying to bring this up. Oh, wait, let me see. I think I can stop sharing. Wait a minute, I'm trying to bring it up. It's giving me, wait a minute. It says share settings, but I can't stop sharing. I thought I removed it, but I don't know. Let me see if I can take it down from here. Huh. All right, got it. Stop share. Got it. Okay. Here I am. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Oh my God. Every day I'm learning something new. Dr. Bowden, thank you very much.
And thank everyone for having me. Yeah.
For that insightful lectures and presentation. Like, I would say you have taken what can sometimes feel like a complex subject and connecting the gut to immunity, metabolism, brain health, inflammation, and in fact, what I cherish so much, healthy aging. And you made it very simplistic. Remember the last time we had conversation about the gut and enzymes, you know,
yes.
and the core foundations where we talked about the catalyst produced by living cells that controls all reactions that takes place in the body. Right? Thank you for sharing your knowledge and for making the time to engage with the cohort 3 of the Afrolongevity educational program. So we would like to now open the floor for questions. I have my own questions, but I want us to engage with Prof now before she runs away. Okay. Dr. Nancy, please ask your question.
Yeah, mine is a submission.
I'm sorry?
Can I go on?
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much. And we are very grateful. Maybe I am very grateful. And you opened a lot of things to me that linked some dots in my research into personalized treatment. And recently we were treating a boy with eye diseases, and he has all sorts of eye diseases, about 7 of them. And the eyes keep twitching. They are not stable. And he's in spectacles, but he cannot see. So I told the mom that it's high time you look at the nutrition. So we did genetic tests, personalized nutrition, took away the allergenic foods. And before we realized, in about a month, the boy had removed the specs. And he could see, he could write. And the mom didn't want to allow the boy to. It was like the doctor said he should be in it, and the boy said, I can see. So in my office, I asked him, and he says he feels better. And the mom was surprised because he had been with the orthodox medicine for over 3 years. The boy is just about 9 years. And within a month, achieving that level of success was awesome. But we realized that it came with a better shape in the gut microbiome as well. So this is an eye-opener. Though it's been working, I couldn't link the dots very well. I was looking at hormones and other things. So it's an eye-opener in another sense. Thank you. God bless you.
And thank you. And I just want to say, Dr. Nancy, don't, I think what you're saying is accurate, but don't leave out the hormones, because remember we were saying there's so much research being done. There may be a connection there as well. You know what I mean? Because we're just so interconnected as far as like all these different vessels and nerves and everything. So don't omit that, but definitely, because there's a lot more to learn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mazekar, can you ask your question?
Good evening, Lucy. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think I came in a little bit late, and I got interested when you were talking about the guts, bacteria being responsible for, did you say vitamin production or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How does a compromised gut, how is it related to deficiencies to the B vitamins?
I'm sorry, say that again.
If you have a bad gut, a compromised gut, by I'm asking if it has something to do with someone having deficiencies, if it's proportional to someone having deficiencies in the B vitamin.
With the vitamins, that is a possibility. If you look at you know what? But if you have good health bacteria, they're already producing that for you. So you're saying, like, if you take the supplements, does it have anything to do with supplements? If your gut microbiome is healthy, more than likely you don't need that. But if there's some deficiency there in your microbiome, then it has to be replaced, right? So that's why people take certain supplements, like they'll take vitamins and stuff like that. But usually, if you're healthy, for the most part, and I'm just saying anything can happen to anybody, but usually the bacteria is providing that for you. However, there are people I know, as you get older, think about this now, as you're aging, everything is being reduced, right? So that's when a lot of times people take the supplements.
Again, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can a feces of a healthy person, can someone take a feces of a healthy person for it
pieces of what? I'm not missing that word.
Of someone that have a healthy gut microbiome.
A healthy microbiome.
Yes. Can someone take it? Someone who have a compromised gut, is there any research or anything of such that is backing that if you take a feces, that it could repair that of someone who is gut is compromised?
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. You're saying that if somebody has a healthy microbiome and someone does not, is there a way that you could take from the person who has a healthy microbiome and hopefully it will populate in the person who has the unhealthy one? Am I hearing that correctly?
That's it.
Yes, that's what they're doing. I had mentioned that early on, where they're doing fecal transplants. Some of them they put into a capsule. So they find an individual that has a healthy microbiome, they take from them, and they can either do it through a capsule or they can do it through a colonoscopy. Yes. And then the whole idea is hoping that it will populate, the healthy bacteria will populate and improve their microbiome health. Correct. Yes.
Thank you. That's all for now.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
Can we have the slide?
Sure.
Can we have the slide?
I have sent it to the class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
My questions. Okay. Okay. Austin, please ask your question before I ask.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Doctor. I think every day we are getting to learn new things in this platform, and today's lecture has been so rich. And so my question will be like, how will you know? Is there any medical test that will be able to verify the state of your guts, whether particularly if you don't have any physical manifestation of any kind of ailment? Is there a medical test that can be used to to confirm, to verify the states of your guts?
That's really interesting because I could tell you this. There has to be some indication within your blood test. And the reason why I say that, because it gives you an indication as to whether you have high cholesterol, aside from the physical. So there's certain things. Remember I mentioned to you about the TMAO that tells you if something is going on with the heart. So yes, there are indicators that can tell you from a blood test whether there's something going on with your gut, because that TMAO is what's produced by the bacteria. And if it's high, that gives you an indication that something's going on with the heart. So yes, there is that. Yes, it is correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Messi, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. Mrs. Bolden, I want to find out what's your recommendation about taking Greek yogurts? I usually recommend it to my patients as a naturopath, but how often should we consume Greek yogurts since it contains lactobacillus that can help with the gut biome?
As far as you're not supposed to do it every day. Everything is supposed to be done in moderation. But Greek yogurt, from what I know, is beneficial. Yes. So, but my thing is, if sometimes it depends on the individual, but I think that's something you have to look at the individual as well. So you can like remember I said, it's not a one size fit all. So that's something that you need to research to determine based on that person's needs. Okay, so that's how I would respond to that, because it's definitely not something that you should be doing every day anyway. I've even seen a situation where they say once a week, but I think you have to look at the individual and determine what their needs are.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Okay, we are getting there gradually. So yes, I would like to actually have 3 to 4 questions to ask. My first question is, if the gut health is foundational to immunity, metabolism, brain health, and healthy aging, what is the single biggest gut health problem you believe African populations need to address first?
So what is that last question? What is the single what disease you said?
What is the single biggest gut health problem you believe African populations needs to address first?
I think diabetes. Because we saw how it has a lot to do with regulating glucose levels. And we know, the impact that diabetes can have on an individual, as far as leading to blindness, to amputations, to infections. I really think because that one is the one that stands out to me, and that's the one that's prevalent in our population. So that would be the one that I would be concerned about.
Okay, my second question is the microbiome. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
So the microbiome is highly individual. Sorry. Oh my God. So the microbiome is highly individualistic, right? How much should our gut health recommendations in Africa be personalized? Because in Africa, I always talk about personalized approach for these things, personalized protocol. And I think one of our doctors also talked about it. So my question is, how are we going to personalize this, considering the fact that we are genetically diverse and that we are divided along cultural lines, considering the geography and everything, and our traditional diets, environmental and lifestyle, rather than using generic Western recommendations?
Okay, see, and that's why I said I think that the genetic testing is important because they have a test that tells you like what foods will probably be best for you. It could be based, sometimes they based on your blood type. There are different biomarkers or genetic factors that can help determine what will work best for you. And that's what I think is really great about personalized medicine because when you think about it, all of the medications are based on Caucasian males, okay? Because we're really not represented in any of the research. And like I told you, it's not a one size fit all. So I like the idea that they have come up with these type of different tests to look at you as an individual instead of looking at you as a whole, because we are not the same as Caucasians, you know. So I know someone who actually, and I plan to do it myself, who actually has that type of test, and it will help you. And I actually read a book not long ago where it tells you that, you know, if you have like a certain blood type, the type of foods that you should eat. And I have people who have attested to the fact that they followed that regimen and it was more personalized, even though it was grouped into blood types or what have you, but it was more personalized and they saw the benefits from it. You know, so I'm not saying that that's the only answer, but I think when it comes to personalized medication, you need to know exactly what your makeup is. And that's with this all this technology, that's how we're able to do this, which is great. So it gives us that opportunity to find what works best for us. So that's why I think you can do it is by doing genetic testing.
That's great. But then if we want if we wanted to move from simply telling Africans to eat for gut health, to actually developing an evidence-based African gut health protocol, what would you say are the first 5 things we need to research and measure first? The first
In
5
reference,
things.
you mean for gut health?
Yes.
And so you're talking about what would you have to measure like for yourself? Let me understand that question. You want to know.
I'm saying if we want to move from simply telling Africans to eat for gut health, if we want to move from that level to actually developing an African evidence-based gut health protocol, what would you say are the first 5 things we are to research and measure?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I would have to think about
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, I have to think about that one. I got to think about that one.
Yeah,
I can
please
respond
do.
to you. Give me time to do my research. I'll respond to you though, but not right now.
No issues. So the last question, because we want to, the essence of this program is to make it translational.
Yeah.
It's not just so this everyone here would want to see what they can do. They have the communities that they belong to, the chapters and the centers. So once they want to do what they need to do, it should be translational. So my last question, are we approaching gut health too much from the perspective of treating a damaged microbiome when we should instead be asking what an evolutionarily appropriate African microbiome looks like, and whether our traditional diets already contain some of the answers?
You know, I like that question because I definitely think that some of the traditional diets do contain some of the answers because we have evolved and we've evolved into a lot of the fast foods and everything. But I definitely think looking traditionally, and I think even in some circumstances, you may have to improve upon those things, but I definitely think it's in tradition. Absolutely. It's just a matter of, you know, making those things better. Because I think I've mentioned in a past lecture how it's important to do the research to find out how much of it actually is needed to be beneficial and not overdoing it. Because I remember one of the other faculty, I think that's Felicia, she had mentioned something about it as well. So I'm in total agreement in looking at traditional foods and everything. Yeah, I think that's what the answer is.
Thank you so much.
Thank everybody. Yeah, thanks for having me. See? So everyone, thanks again. And I hope to see you again in the future. Thank you for hearing me, and have a great one. Take care now. Bye-bye.
I think Osi got cut off before he could say his final goodbyes. I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Gladys. It was wonderful to have you here. I know I joined a bit late, but to everybody that attended today's session, thank you so much. And have a good evening. We hope to see you in the next session.
Hello. We are done. Hello. I think we are done. We can all sign out.